Welcome to another AriasWave update. Okay, so in this particular video, we're just going to go over some of the more obvious things that are going on right now in the markets. So, in case you're wondering what I've been doing lately, it's basically been making YouTube videos. Only made a few so far. On my return, just been waiting for these times to happen as predicted, especially with the euro. The euro is definitely, to me, signaling something that I have been expecting to happen for a while now, and it is the completion of a very large pattern that is being confirmed as we speak in real time. Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar with my previous updates, which is probably all that you've had up until now, unless you've gone to YouTube. I suppose I used the other platform to highlight a bit more, go into a bit more detail on um, not just trading view charts, but some other stuff that I could add to highlight some points there, especially with the stock market and the bond yields. Right now, the stock market and the bond yields in detail, I have basically explained what's going on according to AriasWave pattern. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is purely for educational purposes. So, according to AriasWave, this is basically the end, or was the end in 20, the end of 2020, basically, was the end of a wave two or B wave pattern. Can't be 100% sure on what that is because the pattern is bigger than the chart data we have, but it can only be one of three patterns, one of three corrections: a wave two, a wave four, or a wave B of a larger zigzag pattern. So regardless of that, we had our A, we had our B, our C, D, E, right? And now we are breaking down below what is now should be a magenta line, as the classic way to put it for AriasWave. The stop should now be, or the point, the critical resistance will be up there now. So from this point on, I can see a very severe move to the downside in the euro. On the dollar index chart, it hasn't quite hit that line yet, but I could say with a certain level of confidence that it will also do the same thing. So if you want to have a quick look at the dollar index chart, we're looking at the same scenario. This thing has taken off and it will produce uh, a much larger pattern than what I've got marked here. Don't worry about that. I cannot tell you at this point how high this will go, just due to the magnitude. Sorry, I'll just get rid of these old labels from this chart. So basically, this is a large A, B, C, D, and E. So it's just the same thing in reverse. When you have a look at the euro, it's just obviously inverse, the inverse of it. So we will probably see this break this high sometime over the next few days, um, more than likely, and probably continue higher at this point. Now, in terms of exact counts for this, at this point, this is the exact count that I would suggest is accurate. In terms of the smaller wave entry type moves, well, I think probably waiting a little longer for that to happen would probably be ideal, depending on what happens once we break this magenta line. Will we see a pullback? So on that front, I'm just going to leave it there. Now, when it comes to XLM, right, I'm going to touch on XLM. What that move in the euro signals to me at this point in time is that we are in the beginning of a downtrend for XLM. Right now, I've been saying it for a while now, since we hit that 40 cent top, and I said to get out to my followers, and it was only advice. It was the kind of advice that basically just telling you what I was doing. I was not really telling you to do it, but it would have been advisable if you did at that time. And since then, we've seen quite a decline of about 60%, still around 60%. Right, I do believe that this is the beginning of a larger move down that's going to put this down. I do not know where. It's really hard to say. It's not looking good for XLM and other cryptos as well. Right now, yes, it does sound like a bit of doom and gloom, which is probably why I haven't posted on here for a while. But if I was gonna do it now is the time, especially because of what the euro is doing, because I do believe that these markets move similarly. And if they don't straight away, they eventually do. Just take a look at the previous years. It's pretty obvious that it does. Except what's going to happen in XLM, I believe, is it's going to be quite a drop, quite a severe uh, set of candles that just heads south down to, like I said to you, I don't know how low this will go. Okay, so I do believe the opportunity to buy back into cryptos will eventually come, but it's not going to be for a while. And I suppose that's what I've been saying for a long time now. Um, and I'm going to continue to bring updates on this type of thing just simply because now is the time. Now we're starting to see things like the 10-year bond yield spiking. We're starting to see what appears to be a top in the markets, right? So if you look at, for example, what's happening in the Nasdaq, we're making lower lows now. We're starting to break down. Okay, this I do believe this is the end of this trend, as I've been calling it for a while now. We do have a pretty massive evening star pattern on the monthly chart, so that's a pretty long-term chart with complete rejections of any higher prices every time another month goes by. So, in that being said, that's a very decent evening star pattern because the red candle has a larger body and engulfs the previous three candles, just about. And also, you have a confirming candle underneath that, and then obviously since then we've seen lower prices. So I still believe that is on. In terms of the Australian market, it's not quite the same. It could be slightly similar, but at this point in time, we are definitely seeing in the last couple of days, we are seeing a breakdown of this market. So whether or not this is the top at this point in time, I'm not 100% sure, simply because it does appear as if we're in a corrective portion of this move, and we could see just one more move higher, only just one, in my opinion. So, not going to say too much on that one just yet because I just think that it's unnecessary to do so. Um, yeah, so apart from that, if you look at Bitcoin, I mean, it's still the same. It's been hanging around that range for quite a while now, ever since I called that top. Uh, Basically, at the top, I do believe I called it around when it was at 56,000 to confirm that it had broken that level. It did continue lower. We have seen a minor pullback, but all in all, this thing has already split in half. In my opinion, it's going to continue to go even lower. It's just the beginning. To be, according to AriasWave, it's just the beginning um, of this move down. So, if you want to check out the YouTube video, videos I made lately, they do go into a bit of detail in regards to these markets. So I will be posting more there because I can show you more. I have more ways of producing some more charts that aren't just trading view charts, basically. In terms of oil, well, ever since we had that spike up, it has basically come back down. Now, I did say we're looking for confirmation. Now, at this point in time, that kind of confirmation is there's a very large, sorry, a very wide uh, trading range going on here of about, 27%. I mean, this is quite a move down after it hit that high. At this point in time, to to basically trade this lower, I mean, it's not going to be too hard to come up with a way to short this now that we've seen this type of pattern. A move down followed by a 3 3 5 3 5. I mean, we could just need to see another low before the previous uh, red candle there, before we short this with a small stop, depending on what we see, uh, and how we see it. Really, like, to be safe, I would wait for a little bit longer to put out an idea, because this could be, actually, no, it can't be a zigzag unless it's a 3 3 5, unless that's an E wave pattern. That's why we need to see a break lower. So at this point in time, I'm just going to leave that one, but I do believe we are going to see another move lower that will go much lower on this one. Not that these Fibonacci's mean anything. I'm not labeling this chart yet, simply because it could still just be the end of a zigzag. Yeah, I don't know any. I don't believe in this commodity super cycle talk. I don't think that's accurate. I think that this is just part of an unfolding scenario that started in 2008. I do believe this is all part of the same pattern. We never saw a new high. This particular move here, if it's a D, that's a different story. Then either way, whether or not this is considered an A, B, C, D, E pattern, either way, I think there's going to be like a massive move down again. It's going to cause massive issues, same as what we saw in 2020. I do believe that's still correct. Nothing has proven to me otherwise that it isn't. It just means that we're going to see a move either back down to the lows or even lower. With this particular market, I just don't see there being any limit at the moment to the downside. It's already hit negative territory before. Why can't it do it again? Otherwise, the limit would be potentially, depending on if this pattern is something a bit different, like what I've mentioned before. For example, if this was a 3 3 5 3 5 pattern, which I doubt it is, by the way, we'd still need to see a move back down to the lows. So either way, a move back down to the lows, no matter how you look at it, whether it's a complete zigzag or a complete correction in general, I would say that it likely is more a complete correction in general. And once we see this move down, we will see a bounce again. So interesting times. I do think that does relate somehow to what's going to happen with the bond yields. So with the bond yields, I would say that we are going to see a pump, a pretty big pump in the bond yields. So as I've mentioned in my previous video on the other platform, this has more characteristics in line with a D wave. So this E wave will probably bounce pretty high. It could go as high as 20%, right? Anywhere between 10 and 20 or 10 and 15%. I don't know. We don't know. But then I do believe there will be another dump all the way back down into negative territory. Okay, and there's a reason for that, and I explained that in the other video on the other platform. I can't show you that here, but if you go on over, my YouTube link is on my profile. TradingView allows me to share that link with you on my profile, so go and check that out. That, I think it's called How to Decipher Interest Rates, Bond Yields, or something or other. So yeah, so that being said, I mean, I don't think it's much different for any of the other cryptos. You know, if you look at Cardano, ADA, I mean, I basically believe that all these moves are mimicking the euro dollar just because one moved higher than the other. To me, that doesn't mean anything. They're all going to fall down just as hard as each other. That doesn't mean that they're not going to bounce later. Okay, that does not mean that at all. I do believe there will be lots of opportunities coming down the line, but we need to see new lows across the board. Okay, and when I say new lows, it's going to get ridiculous. I don't know how ridiculous it's going to get, and I don't. It's a little bit troubling to think about it because not long ago, it appeared as though we were pretty bullish. So that's why I took some time out to really think and make sure that what I'm putting out there is to the best of my ability. But once again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is only for educational purposes. Please remember that. So yeah, regardless of what we're looking at, it's going to get pretty crazy. XRP, I don't think it makes a difference as well. I think that's also going to tank way, way, way lower than where it is now, right? Way lower, probably even. Look, I don't want to say anything at this point. It's too hard to really understand how this XLM and XRP are going to go in terms of how low, because if you're looking at the euro, we need to go pretty low for the pattern to be complete, right? In terms of the euro, I'll explain to you roughly how low we need to go as a minimum, right? And I do believe it is around 60 cents, right? Now, how do I get that information? Don't worry, I'm going to be putting out another video on YouTube shortly to explain that to you. With the longer term chart, so you can see why that's a minimum expectation. I do believe that this is going to go much lower, but not to the point where it's a complete collapse. I don't believe that's going to happen, but definitely during this time there's going to be a lot of volatility in the markets, and this is the confirmation. We are now seeing the confirmation for that volatility. What's ahead definitely was a very strange pattern to decipher during the process, especially the last move down since the end of E wave. There definitely been one of the weirder patterns I've seen. Um, but if anything, I'd say it's just going to drop like an impulsive move, really sharp. So whatever's coming next, in my opinion, it's going to be impulsive. Just a quick look at the Dow Jones, as I always do. I mean, we're starting to see that rejection now of that trend line there. Like, if you take a good look at, like, if you want me to give you a little bit of an example of how I see this particular market, it's, to me, it's like there's one, two, one, two, and then you get the three, right? It's very similar to what we saw in the GFC, right? That particular pattern it just seems to it just looks so similar to how the GFC started, right?